What's going on, everybody? My name is Coach Stefan, and I am the host of the Everyday Pursuit podcast. Welcome. I got Coach Mike on here with us today. Today is going to be specifically on mindset. So if you feel like you have maybe been struggling a little bit, like having maybe like not the best perspective on life, I'm going to just run down a couple things. Number one, I think perspective is, and I've realized this, like, probably more in the last 3 or 4 years than anything. And it's some of the life things I've gone through, some of me just like maturing and just being around longer, you become more wise. But this is specifically like, it's not super tied into fitness, I will tell you, but there are some key points. Perspective is probably like the most important thing in your life, because perspective usually dictates how happy you are. We all know that we see people that are like billionaires, and we usually equate money with happiness, right? Like in America, I'm like, oh, why isn't that person happy? The reason that the billionaire is not happy, now it could be a hundred different things, but I think the reason is their perspective is skewed. Like, if they were to every day wake up and let's say they came from nothing and they thought about it like, man, or maybe they took a drive, whatever neighborhood they're in Beverly Hills, and they went to like the shittiest part of California and just like looked at the workers and like how hard their job was. Actually, Dean Graziosi, he's a big entrepreneur, real estate entrepreneur in Scottsdale. He makes his kids go around and do work gratitude. So he literally is, they're super, super wealthy. He like drives him around and like looks at the landscapers and like, he's like, that could be you. Like that guy's busting his ass in the heat, all that, because your perspective does get skewed when all you have is luxury and all you have is good. Like, your perspective's not really accurate. It's actually inaccurate. And the thing is, perspective is also the thief of happiness. Like how happy you are and how satisfied you are with your situation is all based on what you accept. And what you accept is based off your perspective. If you're like, I'm doing really well, because your perspective is like, let's say somebody makes $50,000 a year and they're like, I'm doing great. By whose standards? By yours? Cool. How much did your parents make? Maybe their parents made 40. So you know what I mean? Like now their perspective's like they're doing better. Maybe their friends make 30. So now they're crushing it. But if you hung around that same person hung around everybody that's making $250 a year, they're going to be like, this sucks. Same amount of money. Nothing changed. The only thing that changed is their perspective. And I think that we as society, we really want to be super comfortable, and we don't struggle enough. We actually avoid struggle. And it's hard because I think struggle is kind of like the precursor to having a good perspective. And if we just said that having a good perspective dictates your happiness, then struggle dictates your happiness. Like it has to happen. And I think that as a society, we avoid like the challenges and like admitting like, I suck, I messed up, I failed. Like that's the only time you get to learn and have like a new perspective of like being able to do things different.
Yeah. I always like, I don't know why I was bringing things up with cars. My car analogies, guy. But yeah, there you go. I don't even care about much about cars, but they're easy to make analogies for. You could have these like oil tycoon people in like the Middle East, these like princes or whatever, like these oil sheiks, and their wealth is beyond counting. Everyone's like, oh, this guy's the richest person on the world or whatever. These people just keep their mouths shut, and they're probably worth way more because the things that they own are like, you can't put value on them. They might have the rights to like all this oil, and they're like, yeah, money doesn't exist. Do whatever I want. They buy these cars, they buy these Bugattis, all these like classic cars, spend $1 million. They just leave them in the garage and they look at them every now and then and just like walk away, like whatever. Some of them get flat tires in Dubai. You see it. They just leave the car. They're like, I don't even care, whatever. Then you have somebody that like is a blue collar worker in America or something or some other country, saves up, gets his first car. He's waxing it every day, like really taking good care of it. Something goes wrong. Oh, I got to get touch up paint. I got to do this. Yeah. Like that guy's like more grateful for the lesser car that he has because he's in the struggle. He's on the climb. He's on his way up, or he works hard for his money. If you're born into extreme wealth, like billions of dollars, you're like you said, your perspective is so skewed. You don't really like appreciate what you have, and then you start to like just your mindset's like ruined. You're like kind of off,
Yeah. And it doesn't even have to be extreme wealth. And I don't want to touch like only this be about money because it's really for like any perspective. And what you said is right. Like if you put in the work, which is kind of like struggling or suffering in some way. It's a sacrifice, or it's like you don't want to do it.
Labor, yeah.
And you're having to like put in the work. It does mean more, and we know that. Like that as a society, that when you work for it, it means more. People's like, no, if somebody gave me $1 million, it'd be the same. You think it would be the same? It would not be the same. It wouldn't. Like
easy
it
come,
would.
Easy go.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the same. Why do you think lottery people like win millions of dollars and lose it? They don't like it's not the same thing. If this was your business and you like worked your ass off every day for 20 years and became had millions of dollars, it would mean a lot more to you. You have like time invested in it and a little fear and suffering. Like, I don't want to lose this. I would lose my whole life. There's like more things. And when it comes to like your physique, since this is a fitness podcast, I think the people that have been around the game and like put more time in, they not only do they have more respect for like people that are starting out, everybody thinks this big dude's in the gym is like a complete asshole. He's probably actually really nice. And he was probably once a little skinny guy too. And he probably, if you asked him, he'd be super nice to you. Not every person. But the thing too is like that person's going to probably appreciate like where they are in their body so much more because they struggled. And they also don't need as much to make them happy because their perspective is like, wow, I used to be here and like now I'm here. And then they get to look at people at the bottom.
5-pound PR, yes.
Yeah. They get to look at small wins, and they get to look at people at the bottom and if they're a humble person, like, man, that's kind of where I began. And even for me, like when I got out of the military, I had like $300 in my account. And I was like thousands of dollars in debt. I had like nothing. I started all over again, was a single parent, moved back home, lived with my parents. Like that shit sucked. Like it was not fun. And so now when I'm doing relatively well in business and we've grown, like to be honest with you guys, like every day, and it's hard because I can tell that like I even get used to it. Every day I should be like, thank you, God, like just completely blown away that I can live in America in a nice town and like have these things and like have a healthy body and a great family. But we very quickly get so numb and used to the things we have that we live in a society where we just want to bitch, dude. We just want to complain about how bad we have it. I'm like, oh, well, you can go to Ukraine and they're getting bombed right now, and I get it. You're like, okay, well, we're not in Ukraine. I understand that, but you guys have to like seek suffering a little bit more. And I promise you, if you seek suffering and not for nothing, don't suffer just because you suffer. Okay. That's like stupid. Nobody, I'm telling you right now, even the guys that like run like ultra marathons and like all these things, if you ask them, like they're like, I just run because I like it. No, there's another reason. There's a deeper reason. Like there's other things that are driving them and a lot of whys and whatever.
Trauma.
But, yeah, anything, yeah. Like, oh yeah. Or like my friend in the military has like really bad PTSD. And he's like, dude, I have a lot of demons in my head, but when I'm running, like I have to confront them and, get these dark places. And then, so when I'm not running and I'm not running 100 miles, it helps me oh, that's nothing, so there's reasons, there's reward, but I think all the happiness comes from a little bit of suffering. Like if you've never suffered, and this is why I think weightlifting and exercising and being like living a fitness lifestyle is good, because it teaches you like a daily sacrifice to kind of like, hey, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it anyways. And well, not only like there's a lot of other, mental benefits and chemical benefits and stuff, but I just think that, as a society that tries to be so comfortable all the time, and there's nothing wrong with it, but if you're comfortable all the time, you like your job, you're comfortable at job, comfortable at your house, where the hell are you going to grow? Where are you going to grow? Because growth doesn't come from comfort. Growth comes from discomfort and suffering. So how are you supposed to grow as a person if you're not putting yourself in stressful situations, in situations? Actually, there's this guy called Hermes the Cynic on TikTok. I think that's his name. Super funny guy. And he was talking about this, and I don't know the name of it, so I apologize. But this theory, when he said basically, hey, every year, and he grew up in like a rich neighborhood with these kids with like unstressful lifestyles. He's like, every year we went to this like big meet and greet with all the people in the town. And they were like us and the inner city kids. And the inner city kids looked like adults. Like they were in high school. They're like, dude, why do they have like mustaches and stuff? And there's actually science to back, studies with rats and other stuff. When you put somebody in a stressful situation, they actually grow up quicker. Their telomeres, like the end of their genes, like age quicker and more testosterone's released because they're in a more stressful society. So like, you grow up quicker and you literally grow by stress. So, if you're seeking comfort all the time and then you're depressed in like other areas of your life, that's probably why.
I saw a video the other day of a 3-year-old from the 1900s, like early 1900s, was a chimney sweeper at age 3 years old. This kid looked like he could have had a cigarette in his mouth. It was like an adult and a 3-year-old. And I was like, there's no way it's 3. It's probably one of those people that have like the diseases where they look like, progeria or something like that. And I'm like, the kid was actually 3 years old. He was carrying a ladder. He had his like lunch pail and everything and was just walking like an adult. So yeah, there's, was it desperate times call for desperate measures. There's definitely truth to that 100%.
And the thing too is like, I think happiness comes from a place of like humbleness too. And when you suffer and you struggle, like you're humbled in that moment. You should be, right? Like instead of just being angry and resentful, and the glory is so much better. Like, it really is. And I do think it kind of pertains to fitness and nutrition because it's hard work. I'm not going to lie to you. Like it's consistent hard work. It's consistently doing things that like you generally don't want to do, but it's always the worst in the beginning. So it gets better because in the beginning you're like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do it. Yeah. You haven't seen any of the positive things. You're super out of shape. No wonder exercise sucks. You've been eating unhealthy your whole life. So you're extremely addicted to like sugar and probably like partially alcohol and all these other things. You don't want to give it up and you're super comfortable. But what you don't realize is like the reason you do all those things and go out and drink every freaking weekend and go out and eat shitty food is because you're seeking pleasure. If you were to just have a better perspective, which I promise you that the only way you're going to have an accurate perspective that's not skewed and it's going to bring gratitude is by struggling a little bit. But you're addicted to these things and seeking pleasure because you think life's supposed to be literally about fun and happiness and comfort. And there's another quote I read the other day. It was like, life's not about having a good time. It's about leaving a good legacy. And that hit home for me because I'm like, that's what I think. Yeah, you can have fun. You can enjoy it. But like, you're going to die, right? Like, you're going to die. We're all going to die. And what are you going to do during that time? Are you going to live a life where you're like, dude, I like fought through all this adversity and like, no, building a physique isn't the end all be all, but like I was healthy and I like took care of myself and lived a long, healthy life. And I got to see my grandkids raised and I got to experience all these things. And when I was retired, I traveled all over. Or do you just want to be sick and fat and out of shape and unhealthy? And the only way is you have to actually like take a struggle and just head on face it. Like 100%. Just like, this is going to suck. Like, bring it on. Like, let's go.
Look at Rocky IV, right? He knew he had a big fight coming up. He was rich, right? He has his Lambo, or I think it was like Lamborghini Countach, guys, and he's like, I'm going to Russia to beat the Russian. And he just went in like Russia. He's in like some log cabin. They have to make like a fire, whatever. He got back to that grind. Like he got out of that rich, like, oh, I can take a day off and just lifting logs, doing all that stuff, like climbing mountains, got back to the old school, the suffering. And then he won, well, I think it was George Foreman that said, could be wrong on that. He said, it's hard to wake up to run in the morning when you sleep in silk sheets. Yeah. You lose your motivation, you lose that grit and that determination, that drive. So I think no matter, when you make it, whatever that definition is for you, you have to act like you have to appreciate what you have right now. And in a healthy way, never be satisfied. Be like, great, I'm glad I made it. Let's keep going. Let's get back to that struggle, get back to that grind in some matter. It doesn't mean you have to sell everything and like, I got to be homeless again so I can.
And something to think about this is just like from a fitness and nutrition perspective. Guess what? You live in America. If you make above $40,000 a year, you've made it.
You're top 1% of the whole planet.
Yeah, and I don't just mean by your wealth. That's not what I'm talking about. From a fitness and nutrition standpoint, can you basically eat what you want? I'm not talking about luxury food. Like you go to 7-Eleven and just like buy shit. Of course you can. So food and convenience has become like a king to you. I mean, like agriculture is so ridiculous. You could buy basically the most tasty, delicious, high calorie food for really cheap anytime you want, AKA fast food. You don't have to do any work for it. So you're basically like a billionaire in that way. And so we live this billionaire food lifestyle where we're like, just buy shit and just order it online and just, grab a protein bar. And we're just doing all these like quick, convenient, really satisfying things with nutrition. I'll go to Starbucks and get my 1,000-calorie Frappuccino. And this is the thing. We've got to a point where we want all this comfort and we don't actually try to do a little, I don't want you to think healthy food suffering, but if you don't like it, you're like, no, everything has to be happy and perfect. Like every food I eat has to be delicious. Everything I do, if I'm uncomfortable, I don't do it. Right? Like I'm not going to go on a walk. I'll get tired. And it's like, dude, and it's just this never ending spiral.
Tired after.
Yeah. It's this never ending spiral. And so if you feel like that's you definitely, I mean, you got to change some stuff. And I'm telling you, I from coaching a lot of people, I can tell you that somebody that starts and stays committed to an exercise routine and cleans up their nutrition has a whole new perspective. Like number one, they believe in themselves more. They're like, oh shit, like I could actually do this. Number two, they take their health and they take it a lot more serious. And number two, almost every single person that I've ever coached, other areas of their life start to get better. Why? Well, yeah, they are more confident. They have more energy, sure. But I think it comes from like the struggle. They're like, dude, you know what? I used to be fat and now I lost all this weight. I'm never going back. And then they can use that same thing in anything. Like my relationship sucks, but you know what? I'm going to make it better and I'm going to go to counseling. I'm going to do this. And I'm like, never going to let it get to that point again. And you can use that in literally any area of your life. And so I wish I would have struggled more when I was younger. I'm dead serious when I say that. Like I had some hardships for sure. There's people that have it easier or harder. I wish I would have struggled even more because I'm pretty tough and I'm doing pretty well right now. But I think that if I would have struggled just a little bit more, if life was a little more challenging for me, and for some people, it breaks them. So I understand, like, why would you want a hard life? Yeah, some people it destroys them. And you know, but for me, because I don't know who this is, I know that I had a choice. I was like, all right, this sucked. You have two choices. It's either going to ruin you or make you stronger. Pick now. And like put pressure on myself. And I was like, oh shit, this is going to suck. And I just had to do it. But then time and time again. And now I almost like welcome adversity because I am very confident I'll get through it, even if I don't. And I know if I do get through it, I'm going to come out stronger on the other side.
Yeah, it changes your whole mindset. You know, I can relate it to fighting. You know, when you first start out, you see some guy that's like really good and you're like, oh, I'm about to spar this guy. I'm going to get my ass beat or whatever. And then you just start to switch. You're like, yeah, he's good, but he ain't me. You know, like your mindset changes. You call it cockiness, call it whatever, like confidence, but you just develop a higher sense of self-worth. And instead of worrying about what the other guy's going to do to you, you start to plot on what you're going to do to them. And then, which is essentially you taking control of your life and you're maintaining the frame. You're not entering that guy's frame. You're in control of your life in every aspect. And that's, I think, was one of the greatest things that fitness and then any sort of adversity will teach you is that you're in a lot more control than you think you are.
Yeah, especially when we live in a society that basically says like, oh, you're getting all these environmental toxins and all this and everything has cancer in it. And it's like scary. Sometimes I'm like, oh shit, I start getting anxiety. I'm like, oh man, like you just feel like you're out of control. Yeah, the government's signing all these bills and doing these things and you're just at it. And it does. But it's like, what do you have control over? Well, you have complete control over what you put in your body. You have complete control over what you move in a gym. I don't care how busy you are. We train people that work 14 to 16 hours a day, 6 days a week and still work out. So, you know, and if you're working more than that, you need to have a better priority in your life.
Okay? Shout out to Tony. He works in a server room and he does his extra like GPP work. He brings his bands in and he does abs in a server room when he's done doing his work. So he's working out at work. That's dedication right there.
Yeah. And so, you know, there's always room, you know, for improvement. And I want you to challenge you before I let you go. I want to challenge you to like seek out some difficult things. Some of the like most self-belief is when I did like the go ruck tough or whatever it was. It was like 20 miles of rucking, like 12 hours straight. Like it sucked. Like all those like big things when I cycled 100 miles, like all these different like, and you don't have to do endurance events, but it was hard. And I had to like fight through it and fight through these mental things. And I always came out like super, like the next month I was like, let's go. Like you kind of are puffing your chest and feel really good about you. And the thing is, you have no idea what you're going to do in life. If you're single and you're not crushing it, you need to do stuff like that. Because what it's going to do is you're going to like carry yourself with like, instead of if you view yourself as like a 5, you know, out of 10, you're going to be like, I'm an 8, you know, like you're going to move up and you're going to feel like I'm a badass. Like I'm accomplishing these things. And guess what? You run into a partner or mate, like, there you go. they're going to see that version of you, the better version, right? The version that's more confident. And then you don't know what business opportunity is going to come up and all these things. So you should always want to be your best. And if you're really just like maybe not as much of a go-getter as me and Mike are, we're very type A and go, go, go. And you really just want a calm, happy life. I'm not saying you can't get there at all, like by having gratitude and, like just living an average life. Like there are people that do it, but the people that I know that are like at that point, they kind of suffered like in some category or some way. And it makes you like really enjoy the little things in life, which has been probably the biggest thing for me is like, I was just so busy and go, go, go. And now that I've like been through some shit, when I like earn something, I'm like more confident that I earned it, but I also just have like a better place of gratitude. So I know that might sound a little bit confusing, but I want you guys to go challenge yourself. Start doing hard things. And no, they don't have to be physical, but if you're not doing something physically hard, you should also do something physically hard. There's a million benefits, and the best way to increase your confidence is by working towards something and doing it even when you don't feel like it, and finishing it and accomplishing it.
You could only be truly at peace when you're capable of violence. No, I don't know, but think about it. Like, if you have low confidence or whatever, and some guys like messing with you or something at the gas station or whatever, and you're like freaking out or whatever, when you're confident, you're relaxed. You're like, yeah, he's a dork. I could kill him. I'm not worried about like what he's saying to me. Oh, bro, you're a nice car. Like you could just So the more effort that you put into your life, right? The more effort you put into fitness and accomplishing your goals and working hard, when you relax, you get to really relax. Like you're a lot more calmer because you're not worried about doing stuff. You already did it. Yeah. Now you can really relax,
Yeah. That's like me. I only probably spend like an hour or two watching TV at night, and that's not even every night. And my family's kind of like, come on, get off work. But when I'm like doing sales calls and I'm like crushing it at work and I got my workout in, when I relax, it's like, yeah, dude, like it's like going in out. Like you ever clocked out of work on a Friday and you like go out to work with your buddies and you get that like adrenaline kind of high, like, yeah, it's a weekend, like that. Cause I used to get in the Air Force. That's like how I feel most nights. It's kind of weird. I used to only have it on Friday nights and only when I would gonna go party with the boys or whatever. But now like I have that feeling a lot more because I'm putting my energy in things that like are long-term positive too. Like, I know it sounds weird, but like do tasks on the house. I'm like, yeah, I got that project done, other things. And you might say, well, how does that relate to suffering? I don't want to do it. Like that's the whole point is like everything that you're like, the end, the other side of that is always something positive. Yep. So if you're avoiding the like, oh my God, if you're avoiding those things, the positive is never going to happen. You're just going to just be like, meh, or just slowly decline. You're like, I don't know. I've just been getting a little more depressed every year. Like, well, what do? Oh, I go to work and I go to drinks with my friends on the weekend, and I go to eat and I go shopping. What else you do? Watch TV. What else you do? That's about it. Well, no wonder, right? You're like, they're not really doing anything with your life. You're not challenging yourself. And people need a challenge to feel alive. And I'm telling you that you need to keep working hard if you want the best perspective and the longest happiness, for sure. I am hoping that I stay happy the rest of my life. I think it's easy for me to have a positive outlook because even when I work out, I'm like, thank you, God, that I'm like capable of just like doing this. And there's people that are quadriplegics and, right there, I'm like super grateful, but I have to put in the work to do it.
Yep.
Yeah. So I appreciate it, guys. Let me know too, like maybe find us on social media at pursuit_hp.com at pursuit_hp or pursuithp.com. And let us know what you're doing to challenge yourself. I know I have, I think if my knee lets me, I'm going to do a Spartan race or a Tough Mudder pretty soon.
I'm down.
I might start cycling again too. I don't know.
Yeah. We got to do some mat storming.
Do jiu-jitsu again. Yeah, for sure. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on, Coach Mike. And
you got it.
We'll talk to you guys next time.
Adios.